You can see all the white people around Will Smith all you want to. Black folks have loved and revered this man for decades. But you got to have a conversation as to why you did that.
How about the family of the young men and women who were killed and were slandered on Fox News airwaves by Sean Hannity? How should they feel? Hi, my name is Reese Waters, and I'm troubled. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the page. Now, y'all probably remember the last time we discussed ESPN's Stephen A. Smith.
As much as people may have been abhorred by Donald Trump's statement weeks ago, talking about how black folks, he's hearing that black folks find him relatable because what he's going through is similar to what black Americans have gone through, he wasn't lying. He was telling the truth. When you see the law enforcement, the court system, and everything else being exercised against him, it is something that black folks throughout this nation can relate to with some of our historic, iconic figures. We've seen that happen throughout society. So no matter what race, what ethnicity you may emanate from, we relate to you when you're suffering like that, because we know we have.
Yeah, because who can't remember the 91 indictments that Dr. King had when he was on his third wife, after he had cheated on Coretta, married a side piece, and then left her for the jet beauty of the week that had posed nude overseas? Yeah. Don't you find it odd that a man who's been in litigation since the 70s, he's been in litigation, and of course, this time it's politically motivated. All the rest of the time, he was just doing dirt. But of course, he's not doing dirt now. Now it's politically motivated. You don't find it odd that a man all of a sudden on the precipice of an election where he's trying to mobilize black voters now decides that he wants to identify with the black condition? That doesn't strike you as suspicious at all? Now, Stephen A. Smith, you are a veteran in these media streets. I would expect you to see through things like this, but you did give us what I called the worst apology in Fox News history.
I sincerely apologize. To be clear, my words were misconstrued. I'm stating right here for the record that my words were taken out of context, misrepresenting and depicting me in a way I found every bit as insulting and disrespectful as folks in Black America evidently felt about what they thought I said.
Now that is straight out of the MAGA playbook. You gonna believe me or your lying ears? Man, we got you in 4K. I don't know who you trying to fool with that apology. That apology was straight garbage. That apology had bad feet. That apology couldn't catch. That apology couldn't play a lick of defense. That apology was a bona fide scrub. That apology can't play. I don't know what you want from me. Now, links to both of those videos are in the description, by the way. And we never got a full explanation for the Smith Shuffle, which is why I found this particularly interesting.
When we use the word forgivable or forgiveness, that's for Chris Rock to deal with. It's his call. He could have had the man arrested that night and insisted to the LAPD that that not be the case. Could have pressed charges thereafter and insisted on not doing that to Will Smith, not making the incident any bigger than what it was. Yes, he came out with his own flick for next fix, got about $20 million for it. After tax, he probably walked home with about $6 million. But Chris Rock is damaged. In the day and age of mental illness or traumatic incidences that affects one's mind and psyche and what have you, yeah, you might see him at Knicks games. Yeah, you might see him still going about the business of performing on tour or doing his job or handling his business. Chris Rock will never get over that. Ever.
Now, let me first say, I do appreciate Stephen A. Smith advocating for Chris Rock. It is possible to support both. You can be somebody who backs Will Smith, but also can hold him accountable. And you advocating for Will Smith doesn't have to come at the expense of Chris Rock, who was the slappee. He did nothing wrong in this instance. You don't have to make him the villain in this scenario. I would also say, as somebody that started on stand-up stages, the idea of us just freeing people to just react however they feel like they want to react from the crowd would pretty much end stand-up as we know it. And I know that people enjoy stand-up comedy. I don't think that's something that they would want to see. But when you advocate for Will Smith and him expressing himself in the way that he did, that's exactly where that goes. But I'm not here to talk about that. That's for a different channel that I told you that I might start up. By the way, I appreciate all you guys that voted in that poll and supported me starting a new channel to talk about more pop culture things. That poll is still up, by the way. But that's not actually what I'm here to discuss. This is a political channel, and I'm here to discuss some politics. This is what got me in my feelings.
Will Smith apologized. I'm not saying he even has to apologize. I'm saying that while I watch him and Martin Lawrence promoting this movie, and I'm quite sure the reason he hasn't addressed it is because the studios don't want him to, and there's an obligation that you have with them, all fair, I get it. But somewhere along the way, he has to sit down and talk to the black community. You can see all the white people around Will Smith all you want to. Black folks have loved and revered this man for decades. He was the closest thing to perfection, as his friend Charlie Mack once told me, for decades. Everybody makes a mistake. This is not hatred. I love Will Smith still. But you got to have a conversation as to why you did that. And when you're apologizing, and when you're getting emotional, and when you're thinking about all the lives or the people that you've affected, it's primarily us as black people who have loved and supported you and watched you go on an international stage and slap one of us in the face.
Now, I'm really glad you brought that up, Stephen A., because I've been wondering this whole time when we were going to start having these conversations as a black family as to why you did that, because we never got a real explanation for what you said or where you stand. And I'm not one of those people that would hold you accountable for criticizing athletes. I understand that you have a job, and when you criticize what you see on the field or on the court, that is your responsibility. But sometimes that criticism really goes off of the court and off of the field, and that is something that I will hold you accountable for. You remember threatening Kevin Durant a couple of years ago? Because I do. I also remember the many aspersions that you cast on Kyrie Irving, even advocating that he should retire. And a lot of that went well beyond what was happening on the floor. Now, I must put front and center, because how can I not, the many times that you appeared alongside your friend, Sean Hannity.
500 people getting $53 million, and you're right, that's going to lead to a Trump victory. You're not wrong on that.
I'm looking so forward to my podcast, No Mercy, tomorrow. It'll be posted tomorrow. Me talking to the one and only Sean Hannity.
There are way too many people in this country that want socialism.
Right.
But socialism, I wrote a chapter in my last book, Live Free or Die.
That's right.
Socialism, whatever form, manifestation, name, every time it's promised, promises are never fulfilled. It always ends in more poverty and a loss of freedom.
Do you see Joe Biden as a president with serious cognitive decline?
I don't like what I see at times, Sean, but I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to go that far and be disrespectful towards the president of the United States. But I respect the fact that other people see things and they wish that he seemed a bit more stable at times and not as forgetful as he has been sometimes. I'll admit that much.
Now, the way that you characterize Will Smith slapping Chris Rock and the damage that did to the black community pales in comparison to the damage that Sean Hannity and his misinformation and his demonization of black people going back decades on Fox News airwaves has done to the black community? Somebody who you call your friend.
He hates to admit he's a friend of mine. You can admit it. Just say it. My friend Stephen A. Smith is here.
Of course we're friends, man.
And you're able to make peace with that. But this slap is the thing that you have such a problem with. So you were able to make peace and be friends and huck it up with the guy who demonized Trayvon Martin. That was totally fine. The guy who said that there was no evidence for systemic racism in policing, the guy who had nothing but the worst things to say about us merely saying that Black Lives Matter, that is the guy that you're able to be friends with. But this is something that hurts you, that you feel like you need an answer to the black community from Will Smith. I'm trying to understand where you're coming from here, and all of a sudden it makes a little bit more sense why you would say that black kids probably shouldn't wear hoodies after the Trayvon Martin incident. That is straight out of the Sean Hannity playbook. At the one hand, I want to say, well, it's good that you're appearing on their airwaves because it's about time that they hear from some different voices. At the same time, I know that they don't put anybody on those airwaves unless they're going to push certain narratives or they're going to be run over so they could push their own. And you're all too willing to do the former. I also would love an answer for why it was in the Colin Kaepernick scenario that you were so willing to take the NFL's account of things. Yes, when you have two parties that are in litigation against one another and one pushes the second to settle, that generally means there's some stuff that they're trying to hide. At this point in 2024, we've accepted that the man was blackballed, but yet all along the way, you were willing to accept the NFL's narrative of the chain of events, even going as so far as to call Colin Kaepernick out of his name and say that he didn't actually want to play. Why would you believe what the NFL is feeding you when you understand that they are at odds with Colin Kaepernick and have a ton of things to hide, to the point where your ex-co-host Max Kellerman actually had to be the voice of reason, which gave way to that whole T.O. incident where he said that Max is blacker than you.
So what he wanted was transparency, for people to see the full workout, to see the full Colin Kaepernick. Again, you mentioned obviously Max is going to get in here, and like I said, I'm in the streets. Max almost seems blacker than you, Stephen A. with what he's coming, with his commentary.
With all due respect, my brother,
I'm just saying, dog.
Wait a minute, wait to finish.
I'm just saying.
I'm gonna check you right now. You don't cross the line.
I'm just saying.
Time. Wait a minute. You don't cross the line.
And that whole thing got extremely ugly. I don't want to get us all sidetracked into that, but you guys feel free to look it up when you have some time. I would love an answer. I would love an answer for why when Jerry Jones was revealed back in 1957, and yes, this is Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones, when he was revealed back in 1957 to have been one of the white students who was on scene as they tried to prevent 6 black students from integrating North Little Rock High School. Why you were so willing to give him a pass. You really didn't seem to want to address this at all. And I understand this is a man who you have a great relationship with. I mean, I wouldn't call it you and Sean Hannity tight, but it seems to be pretty tight. So does that, is that really, that causes a subjugation of the greater ramifications of him being one of the folks that's actually trying to prevent a high school from being integrated back in the 50s? Does your personal relationship really take precedence? So you speak truth to power unless I have a personal relationship. Like, is that what it is? And I understand, yes, it was a long time ago and he was a teenager, but I also find it curious. Have you ever heard him talk about that day and how it affected his perception of race? Have you ever heard him talk about how that day really changed him forever? You ever heard him say anything like that? No. He actually never mentioned it again until he was outed. Now, why is it that somebody who was on scene for something like that would never mention it, if not for it being something that he's not particularly proud of? And we're also making a lot of excuses for his potential age. it looked to me like he was around his contemporaries. So would he then be free to be an active participant and he would still be absolved because of his young age? You even went so far as to, on your platform, say that he didn't deserve this.
And let me say this. I'm pissed off, but not for reasons that people would think. I'm very, very fond of Jerry Jones, and I'm not hiding that from anybody. Is his record perfect? No. But I'm pissed off because he doesn't deserve what just happened. He doesn't deserve it. One report, our report, said he was 14 years old.
Yeah.
Another report said he was 15 years old. At minimum, that's 65 years ago.
That's right. Poor old Jerry Jones didn't deserve this. That is who I choose to feel sorry for in this moment, is Jerry Jones. You know who I feel sorry for? Obviously, I feel sorry for those poor children back in 1957. I also feel sorry for any minority coaching candidates that have gone in front of Jerry Jones because he hasn't seen fit to hire one. I find that a bit interesting, so I can't really give him credit for the redemption arc back in 1957 when this is how he's moved as an adult. You want to hold him accountable for that, Stephen A? Oh, wait, no, I forgot. That's your friend.
I'm very, very fond of Jerry Jones.
I wonder how good friends you are with Dana White, because you definitely saw fit to glaze over when the video of him and his wife out in Vegas became public. And we all know how you would react if that had been a player. We all know how you would have reacted if that had been one of us. But with Dana White, we're treading lightly. That is interesting. That is some interesting relationships you got there with Jerry Jones and Dana White and Sean Hannity. And how can I forget Sheriff Clarke? Oh, I definitely can't forget Sheriff Clarke. Because it is really fascinating. I can only imagine the kinds of conversations that you have about the criminal justice system and the plight of Black America with Sheriff Clarke. I'm sure those are some really interesting conversations that you're having.
He has to sit down and talk to the Black community. You can see all the white people around Will Smith all you want to. Black folks have loved and revered this man for decades. He was the closest thing to perfection, as his friend Charlie Mack once told me, for decades. Everybody makes a mistake. This is not hatred. I love Will Smith still. But you got to have a conversation as to why you did that. And when you're apologizing, and when you're getting emotional, and when you're thinking about all the lives or the people that you've affected, it's primarily us as Black people who have loved and supported you and watched you go on an international stage and slap one of us in the face and tarnished an historic event for one of the great Black producers of modern times in Will Packer, possibly costing yourself and Antoine Fuqua an Oscar for emancipation along the way.
Stephen A. is right to bring up those who are affected. There are a lot of people that were impacted that don't immediately come to mind, and we have to take into consideration all of the unintended consequences of our actions. As will I. How about the people that were wrongfully pressed by the criminal justice system? How should they react? How should they be affected by the fact that all of a sudden you decide to identify with a man who has been in litigation for decades, who comes with a cadre of lawyers, who has people on Capitol Hill willing to help him violate his gag order, who has judges in his pocket in Eileen Cannon, who has placed people on the Supreme Court who he expects them to be beholden to him? How might those people feel? How might those people feel? You know, the people without all of the lawyers and the people without all of the money being donated to them and the people that can't violate the gag order, the people that don't have judges in their pockets. How exactly might they feel hearing you say that we identify with him because of how he's being treated by the criminal justice system. Here's a better question. How should the Central Park Five feel? How should the Central Park Five feel about you advocating for us associating ourselves with Donald Trump? I got a better one. How about Kwame Jackson? How should he feel? You know, the guy who Trump dropped the N on, right? How should Kwame Jackson feel? You know, former candidate for The Apprentice. How about the family of the young men and women who were killed and were slandered on Fox News airwaves by Sean Hannity? How should they feel? How should the family of Trayvon Martin feel? Or the family of Mike Brown feel? How should the family of George Floyd feel? How should they feel watching you buddy up to Sean Hannity?
I'm not going to say what you did to the comedic community. Hell, Jim Carrey spoke about that along with various others. We know you wouldn't have smacked Ricky Gervais, Bill Maher, Bill Burr, or a host of others. We know you wouldn't have done that. No apology necessary. I'm just saying, a lot of folks ain't get over that. A lot of folks find it hard to just go to the movies to watch you. I'm one of those people. And I never missed a Will Smith movie. Hitch, Concussion, all the Bad Boys movie from the first one to y'all with Gabrielle Union, who, by the way, should have been in 3 and 4, by the way. Along with a host of other things. I Am Legend, Independence Day, Men in Black, 1, 2, and 3. Will Smith, you're phenomenal. Phenomenal talent, phenomenal actor, phenomenal individual. You lost your way one night. We need to hear that from you. I'm sorry. That's what I need to do before I look forward to seeing your movies again, more than seeing a sit down.
You know, he's right to bring up that angle. It was a very convenient time and a very convenient target for his rage. And we can ask that question, but I think we know that if you take him out of that scenario and you use somebody else, the chances of him doing that are a little lower. Just like it was convenient for you to echo that Fox News talking point on Sean Hannity, right? Like that was a convenient time and place for you to just go along with the Fox News talking points. Because I have to wonder if you would bring that same energy to Joy Reid. I wonder if you would sit across from Joy Reid and tell her about how we identify with Donald Trump because of his issues with the law. I wonder if you would bring that same energy to Al Sharpton. I think we know the answer to that. So if we're sitting down and having conversations, you know, getting answers on behalf of the black community, let's start with you.